Hello, this is Margaret Ajibode, the STEM Positive Disruptor. And today on Mia's Conversation, I have a special guest, Stuart Naismith. And he's an award-winning primary science teacher. That's what he won his award on. And the reason why we have this platform is we want to educate, want to raise awareness, want to change people's perception and demystify what STEM is. We want to enthuse our young people. We want to bring the public into our domain. We want to change the narratives of where the issues, where the industry is saying we are strong to get more people to fill in the skills gap, skills that they need for industry, but also about getting more young people to see what we do in the industry and what are people doing right now. So, for example, Stuart does an amazing, brilliant YouTube. He has got a YouTube channel called STEM with Mr. N. And he's done in such a simple and fun way to bring in the public in, but also about addressing the different areas, different children, so from primary age to adult to middle school. So again, so that's what I also want to celebrate Stuart as well, because he's doing great things, and we want to celebrate people who are making that difference in the education system. And I'm so grateful out of Stuart's busy schedule, he's agreed to come on my platform. So without further ado, welcome.
Thank you very much. That was a very kind introduction.
But it's a true introduction as well.
It was all true.
Good. So, as I said, I'm celebrating what you do. I'm celebrating the fact that you saw a need and you're looking at ways to address those needs. There are so many different initiatives out there, and everyone has good intention, but sometimes we miss the mark. But you seem to be doing such a great job, and in simplifying STEM and making it fun. So the different people that you're targeting, you show them and you have fun ways to do that. So, again, I said I'm celebrating you, but why on this journey? Why did you feel it was important?
Well, I initially sort of fell into this journey. I don't have a STEM background myself. I was working in the car leasing industry, and long story short, got knocked down one night while I was cycling home, and I decided to have a bit of a change in life and went back to university to do the 1-year postgrad to become a teacher. And while I was doing that, we had a lecturer who was teaching us how to do primary science. And I just asked her an innocuous question one day about something that we were doing. And she was, oh, he's interested in this. So she invited me to take part in an astrobiology course that was happening in Edinburgh, and then phoned me up during the Easter holidays and said, can you work with researchers at Edinburgh University to make this game, make a game for the primary school based on their research? I was like, yeah, I'll do that. She said, oh, right, well, now come and present that at this 3-day astrobiology summer school. And I did that, and she said, oh, you could turn that into an after school club. So I did that, and it just, one thing just kind of snowballed onto the other. That when I went into my first school as a primary teacher, I had done all these science things with this lady, came in with this astrobiology club, and just almost immediately became known as the sort of science guy within the school, because I was doing lots of it in my class. And I noticed that the children, when I was doing it with them, said, oh, we've not done science yet. And I was, really working with the upper school at the time. And there's, oh, we've not had anybody that's done this with us. So that encouraged me to keep going, because I thought, if it's getting missed and it is part of the curriculum, I need to do something about it, what I can. Jump forward a couple of years from that, my head teacher said, can you do STEM for the whole school, primary 2 to primary 7, so 6-year-olds up to 11-year-olds? And I said, yeah, that's fine. So I was going in covering teachers, and that was the year that COVID happened. So come the start of the new calendar year, so we're during the school year, new calendar year, things are kicking off. We're going to go into lockdown. My son was born 10 days before the first lockdown. Wow. So it was a crazy time, and I thought, I need to keep this STEM education going for the children. And initially with younger children, it's better to have a practical element to it as well. Yeah, even if it's just seeing rather than doing. And obviously being all separated, we couldn't really do. and I didn't want to give them things to read. So I said to my head teacher, look, I've done a little bit of video editing before. Can I make a weekly video and just show experiments? And I'll keep it simple and things that they can do at home. And she said, yeah, you know what, that's fine. Because obviously I had a lot to deal with a newborn in the house. And I thought I'll make one video, probably as a, an experiment. It'll be seen by a handful of people and I'll not make another one again. And that was 3.5 years ago. And it's still going. But the reason why I'd said to her, can I make a video, was during that year when I was looking for activities to do with the children and research and things, I found lots of videos that showed you a cool experiment, but didn't explain what was happening. And to me, that's pointless. From two standpoints. One, for my own knowledge, I love to know why things are happening. But as an educator, I can't show children an experiment and not know why it's happening and what's going on and what the process is. So that was why I kind of started on this journey. And the more I've done it and the more things I've been involved in, the more I hear from pupils that I'm working with, oh, we've not done science yet. And they get really excited. But also most primary teachers, from research I was involved in and presented at a conference, most primary teachers, don't have a science background. So they're lacking that confidence. And at the end of my first year of teaching, I presented to all the new teachers coming into my council, all the new primary teachers. And I asked them, who's got a science background? Out of 200 of them, 2 of them had a science background. And the question I got asked most was, where do you find your resources? And I was, well, there's lots of different places. And I thought, when I was making my videos, I was like, well, let's take all these different places I go and things I've done. Let's try and put them in one place so pupils can see it, but also so teachers can find it. And, you said in the introduction, it's about demystifying STEM.
Yeah.
I think people get it a bit more complex in their head than it actually is. So I like to show simple experiments that usually use just everyday items that you could pop down to the shops and buy. And although it's simple items, you can get really cool effects from them, and there's great science that can be done. So that's what kind of started me on the journey.
Yeah.
But the more I've done, the more I speak to people, and obviously then the more I learn about, diversity in STEM, or a lack of diversity in STEM. So lack of female representation, lack of Black and minority ethnic representation. And that's why I then started my STEM career interview series, was to highlight the diversity of people, show STEM role models from different backgrounds, different careers, different genders, so children and young people can see who is out there and who's actually
relating, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's seeing somebody that looks like you, or hearing somebody that sounds like you, because I've had people from who've come to the UK from other countries on it, so you get that English as an additional language element. They might not look like you, but they might have a similar experience, and it was getting that relatability going.
You're so right, and I think this is important. I think that's why I'm so impressed that there's so many initiatives out there that showcase that. They're showing the diversity of people that work within the industry, but it's also about diversity of showing the different roles within the industry itself. And sometimes young people or parents or the public don't always understand what is available, what the roles are available in the industry, what type of roles or what are the skills that my children, or what subjects would they need to go for, apart from the traditional science, maths, physics, biology. Those are, but there are other ways to do that as well. But I want to go back slightly to what you said. You said, when you start speaking at the conference, one of the things you identified was that, and even your background is not in science as such, it's teaching, and it's that it's quite hard, because if you don't have some form of the fundamentals of that science background or engineering background, and you're trying to teach that to young people, unless you have a passion for it, it's going to be a struggle. And that's this thing I think we are struggling with, and children leave deflated because they can't connect with it. And you also spoke about where you found your data or information to help, and you realize that some of the programs or some of the videos out there that are showing STEM or describing STEM, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, are not explaining what they're doing, why this experiment is, why is this explosion happening, what's the science behind it, or the engineering, or the process behind it. And that's kind of a thing that also means it's impacting our young people as well, because if you're a teacher teaching science or biology or physics or whatever, you have to have some understanding of how it happens, what is the process, what are the different steps, so that you can pique the interest of our young people. So, and I know you're doing so well, because again, if you weren't effective, they won't ask you to come back. Does it make sense? And if you were not effective, you won't be showcased, and people won't want to be part of your journey itself. So I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for that difference you're making. So, because part of the things for us as people, we are curious. And the only way you can be curious is if you're given the opportunity to find something that maybe you're not used to or it's not been addressed. So do you think, based on your experience, that this is something that is happening in our, especially where primary school children, young people are concerned, because you seem to understand, you've understood what is needed, and you're doing something about it. But do you think that it's the same across our primary schools?
I'm not sure it's widely recognised, because it depends who you end up speaking to and what circles you end up involved in. You know, as I've obviously got involved in the STEM education, I
Yeah.
speak to a lot of people involved in STEM. So I've heard from them about the skills gaps, you know, difficulties that, you know, I've got a friend that runs a tech company in Australia, and they're finding it difficult to recruit people with the skills that they need. But I said to him, you know, there also needs to be industry getting involved in the education system, because if they're looking for particular skills,
Yeah,
they need to then, you know, it's going to affect their business if they can't get people
of
with those
course.
skills. So they should be getting involved. And I know there are initiatives from companies out there that do get involved in education, but I've come across a few that are particularly focused at, you know, secondary level.
Yeah,
But you need to get, in my opinion, you need to get that interest in early. And
100%.
research has shown that early engagement and involvement in STEM leads to long-term academic success, not just specifically within the STEM subjects. Because it's not just about the science of it, it's about a way of thinking, it's about critical thinking, it's about problem solving. All these skills are transferable. So I think, you know, what you were saying there and what I said, you know, teachers don't have that background, and there can be that worry about, oh, I don't know a lot about this, so I don't want to teach it to the children. But one of the things that any good scientist, you will hear them say, is three of the most important words in science are, I don't know, because it's about exploration. So like,
Exactly.
even with the stuff I do with the children in my class, they'll ask me questions about things. They know, for example, space is a big interest of mine. So they ask all sorts of weird and wonderful questions about space, a lot of which I know the answers to because I read loads. But there's things I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
But based on what I know about this, I know about that, I
yeah,
think maybe this is the case. But
yeah,
let's look it up and find out.
yes,
And it's that not being afraid to say, I don't know.
yeah,
And I think it's more, you know, teachers can find an activity and they can find an explanation of that activity, but
of
it's
course.
what if I then get asked something that's
Less
not entirely related to what we're doing?
doing,
You
yeah,
know, if you're doing a space experiment, you think, right, well, I know about this experiment, but
yeah.
space is so wide, people ask about other things. But there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't
I
know,
don't
let's
know.
find out.
Yeah,
And I will
yeah,
actually, you know, get the laptop out and look things up in front of the children to show them this is the
indeed.
process of, if you don't know, this is how we can go about. But I usually
Yeah,
try and showcase the linking skills first with, well, what
yeah.
do I already know?
You know,
Or
of
what do you
course.
already know? What do you think?
Mm,
And tease it together.
okay.
Um, the other thing as well, though, is not even just a lack of, not the lack of confidence. I was asked by a probation teacher one year, about looking for exciting experiments.
Mhm.
And my response to her was, one of the ones my children engaged the most in was, we got spring onions from the shops, cut them down in size, put them in cups of water, and watched them grow for a couple of weeks. And the kids loved that. And it was a plastic
Yeah.
cup, water, and a spring onion.
Yeah.
Another one my kids enjoyed this past school year there was, we made beam bridges using spaghetti, a bit of string, a paper clip, and a cup that we could put weights in.
Indeed.
And they loved it. They loved that exploration. When is the spaghetti going to break?
Yeah.
If we use more bits of spaghetti tied together, how's that
Mhm.
going to affect it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really simple, but I think sometimes teachers are looking for something big and exciting, like the elephant toothpaste, where it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but children are so naturally curious. They can get that wow moment from all sorts of things.
Of course.
But it's giving them that chance to explore and not being afraid that you don't know all the answers, because nobody out there knows all the answers. And
Exactly. And that's why we're human beings. That's why we go and look for things in different places as well. And I think you made such a good point about, if you, just because you don't know, doesn't make you bad, doesn't make you look stupid. It's just basically, it's reality. No one knows everything. Even the most genius person in the world is still curious enough to want to find out something that he or she does not know. And it's be understanding that. It's not losing face. It's saying, look, if I'm going to enthuse this young people, if I'm going to make that difference in their lives, if I'm going to give them that broadest opportunity to see different things in different ways, then I have to show my vulnerability in some ways. It doesn't minimize your ability. It just says, look, just like you are, I want to show you other things because I'm not truly clear, but I can find out for you. It's about saying, okay, fine, even though I don't know, I can find out. But this is the thing within our primary schools, because you said about going lower than just secondary schools, but we're struggling there. And if a teacher, it doesn't have that background, or not really enthusiastic about STEM, or not really sure about STEM, then it's going to be a struggle. So based on your experience and based on what you see, and you made some good points, it's not about trying to overcomplicate things. It's about using the simple things. There's so many things we can find that we can use to make that difference and help enthuse our young people, because they are curious already anyway. So why limit them just because you feel limited? It doesn't, it's okay. But at least you can do your homework and at least give them something they will enjoy. It means that, because if they enjoy having that conversation with you, they'll come back for more. Then you find you engage them. They won't be disruptive in the classroom. So, thank you so much. I'm so grateful, Stuart. So, how then can we take it to the next level? How can we then make that difference based on your experience? Because the education system needs to change. Yes, the industry has to start from a very young age. But there's some skills that we already know we need, but there's going to be future skills which we're not very much aware of. How do we make that difference? Because as you're saying, there are businesses that are already involved from an early age. But what would you say we can do right now? Tangible, practical solutions that the education system, the industry, and the government have to start talking about and start doing something about it now. So I know it's a lot
well,
there.
yeah, well. Firstly, just something else I'm going to say, and then I'll address that, is when we're talking about teachers not being enthused about STEM, so it gets ignored. There's teachers out there that are not enthused about literacy, or not enthused about maths, but we recognise that those skills are needed. You need
Yeah.
to be able to verbally and in written communication. You need to be able to get points across. You need to be able to do maths. STEM, with the way technology is moving, STEM skills are going to be required. It's another literacy, and maths is a requirement. And we're saying about the worry of not knowing. I was doing spelling one day, and we were talking about spelling rules, and a girl had said, "Oh, gnome could become gnoming," because it was about taking the E off and putting on an ing. And she said, gnome could become gnoming. Is gnoming a word? I said, oh, no, gnoming's not a word. But I don't know everything, so let me look it up.
Yeah.
And it turns out gnoming is now a word for traveling around the world, taking a garden gnome with you in different locations. But I wouldn't go, well, that's it. I'm not teaching spelling again because somebody
Mm,
said, oh, is this a word? And I didn't
of
realize
course.
it was.
Yeah.
You go, oh, I didn't know that. We had a
Mm,
laugh together about it and we carried on.
yeah.
So, it's recognizing these skills are needed. Um, one of the things that's going on is, I've obviously said there, technology is advancing
Of course.
so much, and that's where things are going. You've already got robotic waiters in restaurants and cafes.
Mm,
The
mm,
more robotics that come into our lives and the more things are automated,
mm.
there's a balance there between, the Industrial Revolution. Everyone would have been worried that their jobs were going to be taken
Of
by the
course.
machines, which,
Mm,
yes, did happen.
mm,
However, it opened up more jobs for people that need to maintain and work those machines.
mm-hmm.
And this is just another step up that we're getting with the robotics. The more it takes over mundane tasks, the more
Mm,
we're going to need to have people using their brains for higher level tasks,
of
and
course.
also people to maintain and fix the machines, design new machines, improve on them. And one of the things that I find a lot of schools and people that I've spoken to are lacking is available technology within the school. Limited on their ability to have robotics and coding in the school to give children that very early engagement with it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is something that they are going to need, is that
Mm,
understanding of how machines work,
mm,
how to
mm,
piece them together, how you can make
mm,
them do different things.
mm,
Um, there's some good online coding resources as well, but
mm,
there's schools where they've got, internet connectivity issues, that the internet's
mm,
so slow that you can't actually
mm,
get anything done.
mm.
So there's a few different issues in there. Getting more training in for teachers.
Okay.
Again, you see lots of training courses for literacy and numeracy.
Yeah.
Um, there needs to be more focus on STEM, and even higher up in schools and in school management. I've been
Mm.
lucky to work in schools where they recognise the importance of STEM, and
Then, yeah,
they've let me go and do my thing and do what
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
But if management are not promoting it, the teachers aren't going to be as involved in it. So that's something that needs to also come down from the government. Is, look, we've had a focus on literacy and maths and health and well-being, but there is a
Mm,
skills gap. There's a
mm,
noticeable skills gap,
mm, mm,
and we need to address it. And it needs addressed early, because children who leave primary school not interested in computing,
mm.
they've got a very short time then in high school to become very interested in
Interested,
computing,
of
get
course.
involved and get on their courses. Whereas if you get that interest early, they can do things in the school, coding in school. They can go home and code. As I said, there's lots of great websites. They can improve their coding. I've had
Yeah,
pupils do that. I did
yeah.
basic code with them, and they
Mm,
went and extended it at home.
mm, mm.
Um, but yeah, so from the government, um, availability to technology, there needs to be funding there
Mhm,
for that,
mhm.
um, because schools need it. That needs to go hand in hand with training. You can't just pump technology into a school, because with the technology, it's the same as with the science. Teachers who are not confident with coding, not confident with robotics, again, it's going to end up in a cupboard. It's not going to
Yeah.
get used.
Mm.
So that funding needs to be for the tech and
That's for
for
training.
the training. And
Yeah.
that as well is something that industry can do. It doesn't always need to be people from industry going in and being hands-on, but if industry can help fund things, because there's not an unlimited pot of government money,
Mm.
and it's the industry investing in itself.
Yeah.
And if you get that early interest, then the children are going to develop these skills, but
Yeah.
not just the technology and the coding skills.
Mm.
Because as I said earlier, a big part of STEM is about problem solving and
Yeah.
critical thinking. And you
Indeed.
need to be able to communicate your
Yeah.
findings or your ideas and your thoughts.
Mm. Mm.
And all of these things are going to be very important skills going
Mm.
forward. And you
Mm.
can get into STEM careers without going through a STEM route. I mean, I'm an
Mm.
example. I've got no STEM
Yeah.
background,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
I'm out promoting it. I've spoken to the chief commercial officer of a robotics company. He's got a
Yeah.
degree in law. He's
Yeah.
not got a STEM background.
Mm. Mm.
The chief operating officer of a private space industry. He's
Mm.
got no STEM background.
Mm.
But you can get involved. provided you've got these other skills, like problem solving, like critical thinking, communication, resilience is a big one as well. Because as we were saying with teaching, you don't know everything. As a child, you are going to make mistakes. But you need to be able to learn from that and pick yourself up. So there's skills beyond just the basic STEM skills. There's other skills that can be developed, but it's good if you're getting them developed together, sort of hand in hand. I hope that answers what you're asking. I know there was a lot going on.
No, but you know, no, but thank you. But you know, you're speaking truth in the sense, well, you are speaking truth because it's about what you have seen. It's about your experience. It's about what's out there. It's about the people you've engaged with, and you know, this is you're talking from what you know. It's your experience is telling you these are the things that will make that difference, and that's what we want to do. I mean, I love what you said also about getting industry, start investing. It's investing in your future, isn't it? That's what we're saying. Get investing. What can you add to the schools? What can you help the government do so that we can make that so that we can then change the narrative concerning our future? Not have because the skills gap issue has been going on for decades. As long as I can remember, and we're still talking about it now. And we also know that the skills needed are changing, are evolving all the time. As you said, technology is evolving, therefore the requirement is also changing as well. That means we need new type of skills. We don't need to know what exactly it is, but we know there's something we are aiming for. And we know there are lots of research in the investigation and new products being developed, or there's new emerging technologies going on all the time. So we know that there is a need. So there are indicators of where we're headed. So why not get our young people ready from an early age, get them enthused, get them see things in a different way, and also helping our teachers as well, because not everyone has the passion, not everyone's as confident to go into teaching STEM subjects, so to speak. But as you said, there are different other areas as well. And how can we help and support them to do that? And that's what you're saying, and that's why I'm so grateful, Stuart, that you've come on board and we're having this conversation. So it's what you're saying is a fact. We can make that difference if we take it on board, and that's what we want to do. We want to get the education system, we want to get the industry, we want to get the government to start talking to one another and start making that start feeding, as you said, invest in our young people from an early age, and also create those opportunities. And it's not, as you said, it's not just about you coming into the schools and doing hands-on experience. It's also you invest in other tangible ways, like technology itself. What are the technologies that we need to help start getting our young children to start playing with, so that by the time they come out, they're not saying, oh, I've got to learn this new skill, I've got to go this, but they've already had a taster from an early age. That means you're also giving them some form of interest in what's potentially could be a future role that they can fill in the future. So yes.
And research has shown that when we're talking about getting young people involved, research has shown that from as young as 7, children can have their career path already decided about what they want to do. And that's why I'm saying it's too late for industry and things to start getting involved at secondary school. 100%. Research on children aged 7 to 11 showed that the majority of them had decided this is a career path I want to go down. Now, part of that's what they see their parents doing. It's also what they see on television, but it's also what they hear about and experience in school.
Exactly. And what they're exposed to, basically, what you're saying.
Exactly. And there's also some very simple changes that we can make as educators. And it's one that I've had to be very conscious about. The more I got involved, the more I started talking about, you need to practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So, I've got my STEM career interviews that go out, and we've said about them and the diversity. But when I'm talking about STEM in class, I always try and be very, very careful. If I'm doing an experiment or any STEM activity, I also talk about careers linked to it. But I need to be very mindful if we're doing coding that I don't then speak about, your typical computer programmer as a he, which is so very natural. It's the natural thing to say, because on television, if you get your computer science guy, well, there, I've just done it. It's your computer science guy, 100%. Usually. So it's what you see, and if you're reinforcing that with your language in the school,
so true.
Even subconsciously, girls will be going, well, that is not a path for me.
Yeah.
Whereas it really is. The other thing as well that that research has shown is that girls and women, historically and continue to do so, tend to pick STEM careers which obviously have a positive impact on the world. Things like the biological sciences, becoming a
Yes.
doctor or going into forensics.
Yeah.
They can see noticeably where that will impact the world.
Of
Whereas
course.
physics and computing, for example, it's a bit less obvious
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
again, you get that perception of
Yeah.
on television from shows and things of it's the loner in a back room with the
Mm.
computer, and
Yes, the
they
nerd.
don't actually get to see that,
Yeah.
there's robotics and AI being developed just now to help doctors with early diagnosis of illnesses.
Of
I mean,
course.
that's having a direct impact
Impact.
on people.
Yeah. It's seeing
There's
the relationship, isn't it? The correlation and the synergy between these two elements, which are so real. Yeah, you're right.
exactly, and
Mm.
also, like, if you say to somebody about being an engineer, that word, you'll immediately conjure up a particular image of a type of person or a type of environment.
Yeah, so true.
Um, Someone I was speaking with recently, they're a naval architect and design engineer, so they design boats. But he
Mm.
said whenever he speaks to children about engineers, they tend to think about somebody on the ground underneath a car.
Yeah.
But you've got, the naval architect, you do have
Mm.
your mechanics and
Of
engineers like that.
course.
You've got your building services engineers that need to design
Mm.
all the things for buildings.
Yeah.
My brother is a propulsion engineer in the RAF, so he's fixing
Wow.
planes.
Yeah, yeah.
You get engineering, and you'll find when you speak to engineers, they are always very specific about what they do, so it
Yeah,
doesn't get
yeah.
mixed up with another aspect of
Of
engineering.
course. Yeah, yeah.
So it's understanding that when you say engineer isn't just one thing. Engineering
No.
covers
Huge.
a huge range. And
Yes.
again, it's then if you say engineering, your immediate perception is somebody, perhaps fixing a car. You don't think about your civil engineers that are out there building roads and bridges and
Indeed.
doing all of these things, which
Yeah, yeah.
obviously have a huge impact on the world. So there's simple things you can do just with language,
Yeah.
making sure that you you don't use masculine or feminine pronouns. It can go the
Indeed.
other way because
Indeed.
naturally you tend to talk about nurses as female,
Mm.
um, but that's obviously not the case. So trying to be gender neutral when you're talking about things and just linking careers into the different things that you're doing in school.
You're so right, and I think this is so important. And I can talk with you all day, but I'm also conscious of I want to keep it really concise. I want people to hear you. So Stuart, I'm so grateful you came on this platform because you're speaking the truth and you're speaking from experience, and this is so great. And there's so many nuggets you've provided here, which is going to make a huge difference. So I want to say thank you very much, so much for coming on board. Yeah, thank you. I can't wait for everyone to listen to this. So please check Stuart on his YouTube channel, STEM with Mr. N. He makes that impact. So thank you very much. Thank you so
No,
much.
thank you for having me, and I'd be happy to come back if you want to talk about more points another
100%.
time.
We will do that. Thank you.